Okay, I need somebody to join the Zoom, please, so I will able to activate the camera. Can please somebody join the Zoom from the model? Somebody is joining the Zoom? I need somebody to join the Zoom from the Moodle. Do you? Okay. Okay. You can leave now. Thank you. Good afternoon. Sorry for all the troubles here in this room. Not much control on this. Last week, we started to speak about unsupervised methods, covered clustering and anomaly detection. Today, I'm going to continue with the third one, which in my view is less useful, but it is very common, and it's called association rule learning. And then I'm going to speak again about cyber protection and how all those techniques of AI can be joined together in order to support cyber. Afterwards, I'm going to continue to a new topic. So let's start. Association rules, it's a method to discover relationship inside the data that we have. And they are looking in this method variables in very large databases. Now, it is easy to explain this by the concept of basket analysis, meaning grocery basket. And the idea here is to find out what customers buy and what is bought together. I mentioned last week that it is very useful for grocery stores, either online or physical ones, to arrange their store according to what people are buying. So if we notice that some things are bought together, then we'll try to put them together. Now, there is a very common tale about beer and diapers. Maybe you heard about this. It's, of course, it's not real. It's just an urban whatever. But the tale says that on Thursday, supermarkets noticed that beer and diapers were bought together. Why? Because women sent their husbands to buy diapers, and they always bought also beer because there was a game, some kind of a game on TV. Now it's a tale. It's not realistic, but this is the tale that everybody is telling about this method. Each rule that we are looking for will contain two parts. One of them is the if part, okay? It's called the antecedent. And the second one, the consequent, is the then part. So there is something that causing something. For instance, if a person buys bread, then he is likely to also buy milk. We'll put it like this. Bread meaning that we are going to buy also milk together. Okay? Now, let's look at our baskets. These are the baskets that we have that we would like to analyze. And we are trying to see whether bread means that people will buy also cheese and whether bread means that people will buy also milk. So we have 7 baskets: bread, milk, bread, cheese, eggs, etc., etc. Okay? How can we tell if these two rules are true or not. So what we are going to do is first to calculate what is called the support of X. Support of a rule, meaning try to support if the rule is correct, is how frequently items appear in the data set together. Or in this case, only one item. We'll see in the next slide together. So the support of bread is 6 out of 7. Why? Because in 6 of the basket we have bread. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is the only basket that we do not have bread. Okay, so 6 out of 7 we have bread. In the same manner, cheese we have in 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And milk we have in 3 of them. 1, 2, and where is the third one? Here. Okay? This is the first definition. Now, it is more interesting to have, as I said before, support of 2 items, because we are looking for rules, not only for 1 item. So, what is the support of bread and cheese appearing together? Well, let's see. I said there 4 out of 7. Bread and cheese, bread and cheese, bread and cheese, bread and cheese. And in the same manner, we see that bread and milk appear only 2. Okay, so if we started by asking ourselves, do people who buy bread also buy cheese or milk? We see, at least in our data set, that more frequent they buy cheese with bread and not milk with bread. This is the first way to look at it, and it's called the support. The second one is the confidence. How confident do we have that this is a real rule? So, in other way, to put it, how often the rule X means Y, in our case, bread means we are going to buy also cheese, has been found to be true. And this is the proportion of baskets that contain X, which also contains Y, meaning we have 6 baskets that contain bread, but only 4 of them contains bread and cheese. Okay, so it means that if we look for a pattern that everyone who buy bread also buy cheese, this is not the case, but it is the case that in most of them, 4 out of 6, yes, it happens. And as we can see, this is not the case with milk, because with milk, we have them together only 2 baskets out of 6 with bread. So this is more powerful rule if we are looking for confidence than that rule. Questions about it? Okay, again, I would like to say that we are looking for rules that will help us to decide what people will buy, what will people buy together. Okay, so if we saw, let's say we have in every basket gross bread and cheese, 6 out of 6, very high confidence. But still 4 out of 6, it's still high. Okay, of course, usually we are not going to conduct this analysis on 7 baskets. We are going to do it on thousands. Okay. And the third rule that people are calculating in order to decide whether this is a solid rule or not is called the lift. Lift measures the importance of the rule. Okay, so we found a rule and we have a very good confidence with it, but is it important? Is it a real rule? And in other way, to put it, how much more or less likely the items in a given rule appear together? If we have in this index, which I'm going to explain in a minute, we have 1, it means that it just by chance items are statistically dependent, and it just happened to be that they appear together. They have no relation with them. If it's higher than 1, then it's more likely to occur. If it's less than 1, then it's not. So what does it say? We are looking for the support of those 2 items together, and we are going to divide it by the support of each one of them multiplied by each one. Why? Because this is the way it is calculated. And what we see here that 7/6 is higher than 1. 7/9 is lower than 9. Hence, the rule that bread and cheese are both together is a solid and interesting rule. Bread and milk, not so much. Okay?
Well, it's come to 7, bread and cheese. It said 4. The previous slide.
Yes, but keep in mind it's two of them on top of one of them, so one of them goes up. You have here two divisions. Okay?
No, I mean, not
Support bread and cheese is 4/7. And then we have 4/6, so the 7 cuts up. Okay, let's continue. This is basically the idea about all of this method. As you can see, it's very technical, as you can imagine. And the idea here is to analyze plenty of baskets and try to find interesting ones. I'm not going to say more about this method because, as I said, it's not very useful. What are the pros and cons of it? It is easy to implement and easy to understand. It sometimes works. People can say and have examples that it sometimes works. However, we can find using this method, of course, if we have a very large data set, huge number of rules. And this is what actually happens. Most of them are not interesting. I saw several examples of people trying to apply this method. They come up with so many rules that means nothing. It takes a lot of time to do this analysis, and it doesn't say something about the order, because I always spoke and said that people who buy bread also buy cheese. But basically, this is not the case. I can just look at it in a different way. And this method say nothing about what actually is the one that brings the second one. Okay? But it is implemented in several vectors in marketing, and I said it very till now several times, placement of products and also promotional pricing. People are using these methods. Recommendation system, what people are buying together. Sometimes people are using this method. However, I can say that whatever you can do with this method, you probably can do much better and easier with classification method if you would like to do a recommendation system or close selling. It's very similar. People are using it also to try to understand the usage of web pages, and I'm going to speak about this later in one of the lectures, and in bioinformatics, which I'm not going to get into. Questions about this? Okay, so let's go back now to speak about cyber protection. Just a quick reminder, one slide of reminder that I'm concentrating not only on cyber crime, but also when we speak about conflicts between two states, we speak about the cyber warfare. And this can come either in the way of spying, and then we have spyware, etc. And in the case of causing actual damage to the opponents, either by doing distributed denial of service or sabotaging networks or physical war damage, as we can see nowadays in some of the wars that happen in the world. The problem or the motivation, why would you like to use unsupervised learning, is that very easy, or it is more possible to protect against non-cyber challenges. And for this, we can use examples either for classification or rules system. As I told you that most of current cyber protection methods use rules systems. However, both those systems cannot protect against the unforeseen or even the unforeseeable. We probably all heard about the black swan. So how can we do this? Because whenever we would like to protect against something, we cannot afford to protect only against known threats. We must always try to look for unknown threats. And for this, the most common way to go is anomaly detection, which is unsupervised. Let me give you a very simple example of how you can use anomaly detection for cyber protection. Let's speak about a company, and you have a company. In your company, you have an employee called Mary. Mary is a very, very dedicated employee. And you have in your cyber protection system, in your organization, you have a log that log everything that each of the employees is doing. And this log indicates that Mary is working and has many transactions from 9 to 6:30 at the office, and at the evening from 8 to 10:50 at home. Okay? However, starting 3 days ago, the log indicates that some transaction appear around 7 o'clock. As you can see, 7 o'clock does not fall not here and neither here, and even in the middle of the night. What do you think about these events?
Impulsive spending,
About what?
impulsive spending, and be out of nowhere, she wants to spend. It doesn't look like an anomaly, especially when it comes to spending.
Spending? No. It's love of her working on your computers inside the organization. It's not spending.
Okay.
Okay, just logging what she is doing. Whatever your employee are doing is written down. Okay. Any explanation for this? Yes. Yes, this is one.
She has a project, a big project that she needs to work.
It is true.
Yeah.
So the possible explanation, Mary has more work to do. So she's working more time. Or she traveled abroad. She in a different time zone. Okay? So we asked Mary. And she told us that Mary did not travel abroad. And around 7 o'clock, she was stuck in traffic all those days. Okay, she worked in the office till 6:30, and then she traveled home. Yes, she also worked from home, but at that time, she in traffic, and at nights, even dedicated employee like Mary is sleeping. This is the time that it's very, very suspicious. Okay, so what we have here? We have here anomalies in times, and this anomaly in times can indicate that something wrong is happening. Somebody is using mailing credentials. Questions? However, if one wants to spot an anomaly, one should also determine the pattern of what is a normal behavior. And let's see a counterexample. Eve, sorry for the cliche, Eve is an acting student and also a waitress. She works part-time, either from the office or from her home, only when she has a chance. Okay? Why you afford her to employ? Because she is very, very talented. So if we notice Mary patterns, Mary is something like this. Eve, something like this. So if there is no normal behavior, anomaly detection cannot work.
Unless you look for different aspects, not only the time, but
I can look for different aspects. Yes, I can, but I'm looking at time and logging of time. In this case, it doesn't work. Okay? This is the point. Whenever one wish to use anomaly detection, one need to think about whether there is some kind of a normal behavior, because if there isn't, we cannot use this method.
In which way it's conceptualized? It's like in a number of rules. How
Well,
do we define the normal pattern?
you look for it.
It's number of rules.
No, it's not number of rules. In this case, you can use statistics.
Yeah.
And if I go back to Mary's behavior, you just need to do some kind of statistics, and you will see very easily that the majority of her work is done at this time frames, and there is nothing else. Okay, the very simple histograms of time will give you this. And then if you compare the actual time, you let's say we'll track all employees for 1 week, and then we'll have some kind of a baseline of what is the histogram of their working hours. And now, whenever we'll see new logs, we'll compare them to the baseline. Okay?
And I know those systems are not just looking for the individual employee working pattern. It's not like a generic global or.
No, there are systems that do exactly this.
But so you say that if do not have a pattern, which makes sense. But then you put a best known practice or best known pattern that common people in Israel have. So she cannot log into with the same credential from Tel Aviv and 1 hour later from Eilat.
Yes, this is a different pattern.
Usually it's 3 a.m. people are not working.
This is another pattern of anomaly. Yes, okay. You can have.
But this is not pattern of this specific employee. This
I
is
understand.
like,
I understand. There are systems that follow a specific employee, and there are systems that look for the general, the common employee. Okay. In both cases, you must have some kind of a normal behavior. Okay. I'll show you several other possible ways to use anomaly detection. And of course, there are many others. Those are just examples. A user usually, and probably you know, most people in organization don't have the data on their machine. It's somewhere in the servers of the organization. So each user usually has some kind of a server that includes all the files that he or she needs for the work. So if all the traffic always is conducted with this server, and suddenly there is a new server, this is again an anomaly. But we can think of explanation. Maybe this server is down or replaced, whatever, or somebody else just sit on the employee working station doing something that he was asked to do. Doesn't say that there is a cyber attack. Another example, an accountant, we can go over each machine and see what application run on the machine. So accountant usually will use Excel or alike. And suddenly we saw that somebody is using an engineer application on this workstation. Again, it's suspicious, but I can give you another explanation. Maybe he has some trouble, so somebody came to help him and open this application. Another way to go is to look for strange behavior, and this way, as you can see in a minute, it's the opposite way to look for anomalies. If we look at the axis of time, and let's say these are packets that were sent from the machine. So if a user is using his computer to browse or to surf the internet, then he's going to send some messages, receive a web page, send a message, etc., etc. It will look something like this. Then we notice that from one of the machines, we see a pattern of communication coming out. All packets look at the same size and in a very regular time. There is no human being that can do this. This is a machine. So in this case, the anomaly is that there is something which has similar packet size, fixed time intervals. It might be a malware.
But even if it's randomized, it can be a malware.
Yes, but this is a pattern that may indicate a malware. There are other ways to indicate a malware, or a malware at the beginning, many malware look like this. And because there were products looking for this pattern, they changed their behavior.
Wouldn't it already be automated to go directly into the slot, a malware like that?
Why?
Because it's just like obvious.
And as I told you, at the beginning of malwares, malware send out their information on a regular way. So people learn to look for this. Okay? And once they come out products that knows how to look for it, malware authors change their behavior. So now it's more random. Okay? It's always a race, a arm race. Okay? So in this case, it's very, again, a very easy way to go. And in this case, the anomaly is that there is something which is regular. However, all anomalies are just suspicious. You cannot tell from just looking at anomaly that there is actually a cyber attack. It requires further investigation. I explained, and also we discussed, that there are several possible explanations for Mary's deviation from her routine, as an example, and also for the other, I gave you examples. Also, by the way, for this, I can tell you from experience that there are benign products that update themselves and their traffic looks exactly like this. Okay, exactly like this. So if there are many detected anomalies, it can be quite exhausting. And we're back to the problem of cry wolf and false alarms. Okay, so let's summarize this. Anomaly detection can discover unexpected cyber threats, and there are products out there that do this. As a rule of thumb, anomaly detection algorithms work better on data of automated processes. One of the best way to go here is using this technology in SCADA systems, because SCADA system does not involve users. So everything there should be very automatic and regular. And if we see anomalies, it should be looked out. As usual, one needs to deal with false alarm. This is the life of cybersecurity. And to summarize again, in order to have an effective cyber protection, we need a combination. We cannot go with only one technique. We need a combination of anomaly detection, supervised machine learning, and rule system to combine them together and apply the best technique. Of course, after testing it to the best solution, either on the SIEM or on the sensors. Questions? So this is for this presentation. And now let's continue with this one. Okay. So now I'm switching to another technique, which is called the reinforcement learning. And I'm also going to teach genetic algorithms. If this will work for me. So I'm going to start with reinforcement learning, and then I'll speak about genetic algorithms, and at the end of this, I will speak about autonomous robots, both civilian ones, meaning the autonomous car, and also fighting ones. I'm not sure if we'll get to this in this session. If not, we continue next week. So a quick reminder, till now we spoke about supervised and unsupervised learning, and in supervised, we give object with labels, build a classification model, and then use it by giving the object without the label and expecting to get the correct label. And we spoke about unsupervised, for instance, clustering. We just give the object and we ask the machine to put them in groups. Reinforcement learning is a third approach to machine learning, and it's some way in between those approaches. And the idea here is that the machine learns by doing, and it learns to perform a task through repeated trial and error interaction with its environment, with some environment. And this is learning by experience. And the goal is to maximize the reward related to a task. So there is an agent, let's say a robot. The robot takes action. The action influences the environment, or at least do something in the environment. The robot has sensors to get feedback from the environment. So you know the state of its environment, and it is also going to get rewards. So let's see an example for this before we continue. Now we don't have voice, of course. Just a moment, let's see why. Do we have voice now? No. So many technical issues in this class. Why there is no voice? Oh, okay. I think I know why. Just a moment. Just a moment. I think I know why.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
I don't know why.
You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate.
Sheldon, you can't train my girlfriend like a lab rat.
Actually, it turns out I can.
Well,
Just
you
a moment.
shouldn't.
I think I know now why. Yeah.
There's
Just a
just
moment.
no-
Just a moment.
Pleasing you is there.
Anime. You know, I knew a girl in high school named Anime. Anna Mae Fletcher. She was born with one nostril. Then she had this bad nose job and basically wound up with 3.
You're here a lot now.
Oh, am I talking too much? I'm sorry. Zip.
Thank you. Chocolate?
Yes, please. Oh, hey, Kim. Yeah, you know what? Hold on. Let me take this in the hall. replace you.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
Really?
Yes. You're using chocolates as positive reinforcement for what you consider correct behavior.
Very good. Chocolate?
No, I don't want
So this is the general idea of reinforcement learning. And basically, this is the way we train dogs or Penny, okay? And this is also the way we train these machines, okay? The robot cleaners. How does it work before I'm going into more details? When it comes to your home, it doesn't know your home, it doesn't know your rules, okay? So it starts to move, and then it go, and it has a sensor, there is a wall where I cannot go there. So let's turn either right or left, whatever, and then go, well, some other obstacle, let's say the chair, I cannot go there, okay? And by doing trial and error, it knows where to navigate, and actually it is mapping your room, okay? So the motto in reinforcement learning is to find a balance between exploration of uncharted territory, like your new home for the robot, and exploitation of current knowledge, because if the robot already did some traveling inside this room, it has a memory. So it don't need to go all the way to the wall in order to know that there is a wall. To remember, there is a wall, okay? This is knowledge. And we try to define a way to represent our current knowledge. Again, let's say how this room is looking, and the state, where am I in the room, okay? We need also to define a set of action which the agent can perform in its environment. And we need to define the interface between the agent and the environment, meaning what are the agent sensors that you can sense its environment and get feedback. But this is not enough. It also needs to interrupt correctly the feedback that it got from the environment, not just to see, but also to understand what it sees, okay? Again, let's look at a simple example. Let's say that this is our robot, and we have here a goal, and the goal is to go to the treasure. Now, the robot can go either right, left, up, down. Those are the actions, and it should avoid the water. It should stick to the trail and avoid the water. So there are many ways to solve this. For instance, this is one solution. And of course, this is another one. Okay, so this is the environment, and these are the actions. Now, we also need to define the reward signals, meaning how reward signals from the environment are calculated and affect the behavior of the robots. The reward signals can be either positive or could be also negative, meaning I can give chocolates, but I can also use a stick to give some punishment. And the agent need to measure its performance, meaning, am I doing well or not? So let's go back to the environment I mentioned before. So here we add also not only the action, but also the rewards. So if you're on trail, meaning the gray zone, then your reward is 0, indifferent. If you touch the water, then you are going to lose 10 points. If you achieve the goal, you are going to gain 100 points. So as you can see, this is the goal, and this is the best reward, and here I get punishment. So I need to avoid the water and try to get the goal. Questions till now?
What is the real real reward that the technology is getting, the model is getting? What is used as the reward?
It depends on the environment and the task. Okay? Let's speak again about the cleaning robot.
Yeah.
The reward is that I can go. Okay? I can go there.
The continuation of the operation.
Yes, gives you the reward. Mhm. Also, we can speak about optimization. How can I do it in an optimized way? Okay. Now, after we did all this, we are not done. We also need to define the agent policy or strategy and how the agent is going to be trained. A policy is basically meaning how to choose the next action. Okay, let's speak again about the cleaning robot. The next action, as well as long as I can go, I just continue straight. But if I see that I cannot go, my best action is to turn right, for instance. We need some way to represent the policy itself. And for this, people are using nowadays either a neural network, artificial neural network, or lookup tables, which are basically rule system. As I told you, people are using tables to represent rules. So to maintain my policy, I can do either with the tool of machine learning, which is neural networks, or use rules. And I need to select an appropriate training algorithm, which I'm not going to get into details for this, but just again try to give you the general idea. But let's take a break and we start again in 50 minutes, or 15 minutes.
Nice.
don't have any business.
Oh, gosh, gosh.
Do I have to pass them or something? They look them?
Oh, no, they're not there.
Okay. This is the other thing.
But there's like really, so that's all.
Oh, right, the one. Okay.
Sorry. No.
And then this is the one. Other ones that we don't have on. And you Tuesday after this.
Passes of night for attendance, this night, but all. But that plan is that now the work river. Means, instead of. But also, right?
Yeah. Routine. Indian.
Of those things.
Yeah, if I started, anyway, was just before I people.
Yes.
Oh. מה קורה? אבל שלום, לפחות. כן? נתחיל גם משהו. רגע, נראה לי שזה בסדר, כדי שאילן פה יום פנו מחר או לעבוד גם אצלכם שם. רגע. אין בעיה, אני אריץ את הדברים האחרים שיש לי. נשנה את הסדר. אוקיי. בסדר, אז מקסימום תשלחו לי וואטסאפ, כי אני במדים, ותכף נכנסת בחזרה לשיעור. טוב, נתראה מחר. ביי.
Good. Let's continue. Inside the technique of reinforcement learning, there are basically two ways to go. One of them is called model-based algorithm, and the second one, model-free algorithm. Model-based is basically planning, and we'll understand in a minute why. The idea here in this type of algorithms, of course, there are many of them, the agent learns to perform in a specific virtual model of the environment, meaning not in the real environment, but in some kind of a simulation. And basically, while it go or navigate, it asks itself, what will happen if I do action X? And in order to just explore, and basically it comes up to generating its own training set, and then use it in something which is very similar to supervised learning. But instead of us tagging the data for the machine just move around in a simulation, explore many possibilities, put some kind of a label on each of the possibilities, and then learn from them. So this is why it also called planning, because you have an environment that you already know, and whenever you need, let's say, to navigate, you can just use the environment that you know to plan your way. And now the model can be also updated from time to time, because when you are practicing in the simulation, it's one thing, but later on, when the robot actually acting in a real world, it can update the knowledge that it has from the simulation. This method is very useful for games. And basically AlphaGo, which is the algorithm of Google that won about 7 years ago the championship of the Go game, used reinforcement learning with a model-based algorithm to learn how to play Go. Because what it actually did, it tried to run by itself many games and see what are the outcomes. This is how it learned to play. However, this method is impractical in the real world. Why? Because if you had some kind of a simulation, let's speak about an autonomous car. In order to apply this method, and if we wish, of course, that the car will be able to drive anywhere in the world, we need a simulation of the whole world. This is huge. It requires a lot of space in memory of the machine to store all the state space. And of course, when it's go, the action space will grow. So it's impractical. We don't have enough resources for this. So model-based or planning is useful for smaller world or for games. This is why in other real application, people are not using a model, but a model-free. We don't have a virtualization model. We don't have a simulation. We just train on the real world, meaning we does not require space to store the combination of states and action in the simulation.
So even if it's model free, then you still need to store the memory.
Yes, but only by doing. In a model based is called deductive, because you have the general picture and then you deduce from it. So you need space to store the whole world and to plan in it. Model free is inductive. You are just doing something, and if you went from, let's say, from Tel Aviv to Herzliya, then you mapped from Tel Aviv to Herzliya. You need to store this, but you don't need to store the whole world. See what I mean? You have only examples. You don't have the whole picture. So it's save a lot of space, but of course with the price that you don't have the whole picture. Okay? And if you are just gaining information as you go, everything is basically new to you. So you need to try and to conduct trial and error whenever you go, because you don't have means to plan. Because you don't have the whole picture, you don't have the model. Now, if you are going to use a model-free algorithm, still you need some way to conduct your policy or your strategy. And for this, again, there are two ways to go, and I'm going to explain it. It's a bit confusing, saying upfront. One of them is called value-based. Value-based meaning I'm defining what is called a value function. And a value function says to me that if I'm going to get into a specific state in the world, how valuable is this state and how good is it to take next action, okay? Now, it doesn't say anything how to get there, but it just tell me if you'll get there, then the next move should be. The best example for this is checkmate, okay? If you get into the position of defining check, then the next best move for you, of course, is checkmate. But it doesn't say anything how to get into check. Okay? This is the idea. So whenever I get to some state, it will give you some idea what should be my next action. How to get there? I don't know.
Does it do this analysis based on the next step or the final goal? It evaluates.
Wait.
It's a cumulative in the end of the story.
Wait, just a moment. Policy-based, the idea is to use a policy function, not a value function, but a policy function that map a state to an action, okay? Action taken in every state help you gain maximum rewards in the future, okay? So policy-based, meaning I'm trying to evaluate how much can I gain in the future, not necessarily in this position. Value-based doesn't. Value-based, how much can I get here and now? Okay, now this method is deterministic. There are two ways to go. One of them is deterministic, and then I'm going to conduct the same action at the same state, or I can just draw a coin and have some kind of stochastic way to go and decide what next to do. Because I should remind you again, you don't have knowledge about your world. You just start to explore. You have some kind of a policy, and you don't necessarily know what to do next if it's going to be correct for you. One example for this type of policies could be, probably you hear that if you get into a maze, always turn right. Okay? So at the end, you'll get out.
And in a value-based, what would it be?
Each position at the maze, what should be the next step? It doesn't necessarily be right. Okay? Now, let's give you some illustrative example for this. And this is a very famous example for trying to explain the differences between those two. The time you spend boarding a train during a month, okay? Let's say that you every day board a train, and you have probably two ways to go here. One of them should be enter the train as soon as the door opens, meaning I will try to maximize the current moment, the current state. If the train is crowded, then people will fight you, okay? So you don't going to wait until you start to deport, so to board. But since people wish to get out, then they will fight you, you'll spend fighting time, okay? Another way to go is have a policy. Always, I don't look if the train is crowded or not. My policy is always wait, let other people, and then depart. So board. So always I'm going to have 5 seconds waiting and then fighting time. Okay? So if I'm going to have this value and the train is not crowded, then this one will win. But if I look the whole month, taking that sometimes the train is crowded, but sometimes it's not, this will win. Okay, so the second one looks at what is the best way to me now. And the second one say, no, I would like to maximize the overall value.
So the value on this.
Basically, yes. Again, it depends. This is just an example, of course. Okay, you can say also, let's enlarge the state and look how crowded is the train, and put it also into. So value-based, we are speaking about a value function. In policy-based, there is no value function. In value-based, there is no policy, but actually it is implicit because in each state, it tells you what is your move. So if you combine all the states, you'll get your policy. And in policy-based, of course, you have a policy. There are also hybrid algorithms now, and this one is coming from the history. Nowadays, people basically are using hybrid algorithms because sometimes it makes sense to use policy, sometimes it makes sense to use a value.
They don't contradict one to another.
Not necessarily, because you can have some rules when to use them. Let's speak about the environment, because as I said, this whole method depends on an agent acting in an environment. So the environment is very important. So let's speak a bit about it. There are 4 possibilities to split different types of environments. One of them is, what is your observation? How can you see? So there is a fully observable environment, like a chessboard. Everybody can see everything, no secrets. Or there are partially observable environments, like in a poker game. Whatever type of poker you use, some of it is not observable to you. Okay? Another way to split the world is there only a single agent in this world or a multi-agent? So single agent that you have only in games. There's no real environment with only a single agent. Multi-agent like traffic. Many cars, many people, bicycles, etc., etc. Some environments are deterministic. Again, it's very artificial. There is no real world environment which is deterministic. The only example that is given for this type of world is a mountain car. Mountain cars go up and down, ups and downs. Okay, very deterministic. In any other world, it's stochastic because anything can happen. Because also probably in most of those environments, you have multi-agents. The next way to look is whether this is a static environment. Again, it's artificial. You have this in a chess game. You conduct your move. Now, everything is static. You have the time to think until you conduct. Of course, the opponent will conduct his move, and now it's your turn. It's very, very static. This is not happening in real world like traffic. Everything around you is moving. Even if you are now stopped in a traffic light, it doesn't mean that the world stopped. So overall, even if I look at these 4 aspects, real life is the most problematic environment because you don't see anything all the time. Of course, think about, again, a car. You don't see what happening 2 miles in front of you or what happening around the corner. You have many, many agents. It's stochastic because many, many things happening around you, and it is dynamic. Okay, so unfortunately, many good examples of usage of reinforcement learning coming from smaller environments or more constrained environment. Real life is much, much harder. Let's compare reinforcement approach with the supervised learning. Reinforcement learning is a sequence of decision making because each step you take, you need to decide what is your next step. This is not the case in supervised learning. Supervised learning is one time. Yes, I can from time to time update my model if I collect more examples. But basically, I'm building a model, testing it, and now I'm using it. That's it.
I have a question on it. But when I'm doing a sequential, make this step by step, every time take a decision. Then at the end of the story, I will have a model. Maybe it's one
Not
time.
necessarily.
Yeah, it's one time event model, but
It's not a model. It's not a model. It's practice.
practice. Okay, but if and then I'll run this practice 1 million times, 2 million times, 3 million times, then it will become a model.
Yes, this is very useful if you have, for instance, a taxi that drive all the time from the airport to a hotel, always at the same route.
Yeah, okay. You look
But
exactly,
if this road is jammed or there are construction there, your model doesn't
yeah,
have
okay.
any good.
But obviously, but it's purely stochastic and you cannot know what's going on. If you're looking on manufacturing line, or if you're looking on computer network, or if you're looking on on those things,
Construction line are, as I said, constrained. You can have some a kind of determinism there. It's not stochastic.
it's stochastic, but not just as stochastic as
Right. So then you have more relaxation and you have more success in these methods.
Yeah, but then in those places, can I look into it as I'm working with reinforcement. It's step by step every time I take decision. Then once after a while, where it's work and run the same process again, then I can generate any sort of model out of it.
Yes, in this case, yes. But it's again a very constrained environment. In reinforcement learning, you need some way to get a reward signals. And I put here the word Oracle. I'm going to get back to this in a minute. In supervised learning, you have a supervisor, a human, that give you the label stuff. Okay, here you need to get it from the environment. This is time dependent because it's sequence, and this is, as I said, one time. Here, the actions of the agent determine also the next decision, because if I turn right, then I need to take now decision after I turn right for this route. If I took the left, then I will have a different sequence. Here in supervised learning, after I have the model, whenever I ask the model, tell me what is your verdict, then it doesn't have anything with the next one. It's independent. The agent action also determines not only the decisions, but also the feedback. Okay, because if I now stuck in the wall, I get now feedback from the wall. If I went right, I would not get it. And here it's passive learning. I just put the examples, let it learn, and it has no environment at all. Questions about it? What are the pros for this technique? It does not require labeling. And in many cases, labeling is a real issue. Collecting examples is a real issue. And it can adapt to new situation or new environments For instance, the cleaning robot. You don't need to buy a specific robot that fit to your home. You buy a generic robot and it learns how to navigate inside your room, your home. Okay. However, there are cons, of course. Feedback and reward design may be very, very confusing. And it's not by chance that I always get back to the example of the cleaning robot, because it's a very good example. The issue is that in many, many learning application or environment, there is no real way to get this automatic feedback. Unless you are a robot that can send something, how can you get a feedback? Let's think about the question of cyber or finding the lone wolf. Who is going to give me the feedback whether I choose a lone wolf or not? There is no oracle in the world, okay? And then again, we're back to human feedback. And if we're back to human feedback, actually, what does it mean? It means I'm collecting samples and labeling them with humans, but not one time, but on the way, which is very similar to what you said before, okay? So if I don't have a very obvious way to get the feedback from the environment or whatever I need for my learning, this method is useless. Okay, questions? Next, it requires a lot of training for real-world problems, data and time, because most real-world environments are complicated, complex. Also, what happens if you take the wrong decision? Failures might have consequences, which some of them are really, really bad. For instance, I would not advise any parent to allow his daughter to learn how to cross a street through trial and error. Cats do this. And I brought you the picture of the before. Okay. So this is not a good way to learn if error comes with a huge cost. Okay, if you cannot afford to make mistake, you cannot try and error, use the try and error method.
Right? If I have a set of data that I log for 1 year, let's say.
The what, sorry?
I log a set of data for 1 year.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about the production line.
Okay.
It's running. Then I can run this algorithm on a backward.
Do you have labels of success there?
Let's say that I have.
It's very important. If you have,
Yes,
go
of
ahead.
course I have.
Then you can do also supervised learning.
I can do supervised, I can do reinforcement, but and then the mistake will be, it depends what I want, the way they run
What is
it.
your goal? Yes.
But then the cost of error is zero, actually.
Yes, because it's on the past, and then you're back to supervised. But instead of human feedback, maybe you have some ways to measure what is the actual value there. I don't know. If this is the case, then you supervise them. Okay. Now, children do not learn just by trial and error. Well, they use, of course, trial and error, mainly when they try to move around in the world. Okay, they learn how to crawl, how to walk by trial and error. This is why they fall all the time, okay, because this is trial and error. However, children learn also from imitating other behavior, which is learning from examples. This is supervised learning. Okay, they also memorize knowledge in schools, which is basically rules. For instance, the irregular words in English, you cannot learn this by trial and error. You can try, but it's much faster and makes more sense just to read the list, right? Which is rule system. And also, we protect children from mistakes. We don't tell them, well, okay, let's put your finger in the electricity and let's see what happens. We try to avoid this, okay? So reinforcement learning is a useful method, but again, we cannot rely only on it. We need to find the best method or best technique, learning technique that suits whatever needs we have. So the best practice again is collect as much real-world knowledge as possible, which is model-based. This is basically the concept of flight simulation. What are you doing? You are using a virtual environment, a simulation, in order to train your pilot, because you don't want to train your pilot what to do in a catastrophic situation in air, right? You would like to train it in simulation. And then if you have a realistic simulation and you use something which is called transfer learning, know how to transfer what you learn from one environment to another environment, and there are algorithms for this, which I'm not going to speak about, then you are going to gain the best from all worlds. This is a very nice example, and you can see here the article. This is from the press, and this is the real article that was published about 6 years ago. And what they did there is a very interesting scenario. They build games. One game, a computer game, is a realistic game. The other one is not. Okay? Humans, and they say, humans use a wealth of background knowledge whenever playing a new game. It makes the game significantly easier to play. If it's a realistic game that preserves the physics of the world, that I can walk on the ground, okay? If I jump, I'll get down there, gravity, okay? Then people learn very fast to play, and computers, it takes them a long time to trial and error and understand how to navigate or to play this game. However, faced with games that make no use of this knowledge, they build a game that everything that you know about the world does not apply. Okay? Then they say humans flounder, whereas machine plod along in exactly the same way. Why? Because for the machine, well, the real world is new and the virtual world is new. For humans, they use here their background, so they very quickly they found their way. Here, they have to start from scratch, exactly like the machine. Okay? So basically, learning by trial and error is a good way to go, but using whatever information that you already have, not only trial and error, is better. Question about this? Okay. The next thing that I'm going to describe to you is called genetic algorithms. Again, there are a family of those type of algorithm, all of them called evolutionary algorithm, and all of them are used basically to solve optimization problems. There are many, many problems in our world that would like to get an optimized solution. For instance, I will use this example, how to design the most durable bridge at the cheapest cost. I need to build a bridge. I have a budget. I would need to meet this budget, of course, and I would like to get the cheapest cost that I can. And I plan that this bridge will hold for, let's say, 100 years. I don't want it to fall for the next 100 years, at least. So now the question is how to design this bridge so it can be durable one and also cheap one. This method is inspired by the process of natural selection in the biological evolution. And the motivation of inventing this method is that evolution produces the most suitable creatures for their environment, namely, and this is the punch, optimal creatures. Now, this is, of course, false. It's a false assumption. This is absolutely not the case. There are many examples for this. I'll give you only one. This is the salmon. Probably all of you here, the salmon needs to cross many miles in order to return home in order to breed. However, this is the lake trout, which is very similar to the salmon, and it doesn't. So this is far from being optimal behavior, okay? So genetic algorithms have a good idea, but basically you will not get an optimal solution. Those algorithms were suggested first at the 60s, a while ago. And again, it was a very huge buzzword in the 90s. Everybody saw that this is a great way to go. Remember the hype cycle? Soon after, as usual, disappointment. It turns out the GA succeed in solving certain problems, as usual, plateau of productivity. And sometimes, and in many cases, this is the case, you don't need to get the optimal solution. You need to get a good enough solution. And a good enough solution you can get from this type of algorithm. This is one of the most famous examples for this. NASA had to design a spacecraft antenna. It's a very small antenna. See, this is 2 centimeters, okay? And nobody, no human would design this type of an antenna. And using those genetic algorithms, they got this design, which was very close or even optimal, I don't remember. Okay, so this is a very nice example when those algorithms can work. And actually people were using them for bridges also. So in order to explain to you how these algorithms work, I have to say a bit about real evolution. So inheritance occurs by passing genes from parents to offspring, probably you know. And the traits of the offsprings may differ from the traits of their parents, okay? Because there is a combination between the 2 parents. There is also the notion of mutation. I'm talking about genetic mutation, not mutation inside, or what they call somatic mutation inside a person's body, but mutation during inheritance. It's an error during the hereditary process, okay? The genes are combined, but there is some kind of a mistake or an error there. And the next concept, and the most important concept of evolution, is called the natural selection. The traits that were inherited from the parents, if they are helpful for survival and reproduction, then they will be more common. Why? Because this creature have better chances to live longer and to reproduce. Now, it doesn't mean that anything is guaranteed, because maybe just now a new creature was born with the best traits ever. But a minute after it was born, some other animal came and ate it. Okay? So no guarantee here, but maybe it has better traits. Of course, harmful traits, if the traits will make this creature life shorter or will reduce its reproduction chances, of course, then there will be more rare. Okay, these are the general idea of evolution in one slide. So what are genetic algorithms? I have some kind of initialized population. I need to define a population of candidate solution. And these are called chromosomes or binary strings. In our example, which I'm going to continue with, think about some random bridges models, and these are the funding generation. Okay, let's say I have some way to represent in binary sequences, 0 and 1s, the bridge. So I have some kind of random bridges, and I start with them. Then I have to define something which is called a fitness function. And the fitness function examine how good is a given candidate solution for my task. In our case, a bridge that has high durability and low cost. I can measure it. Let's say I have a way to measure it from the sequence, and I get some kind of number for this, a number for this. And then I need to define also what is called genetic operators. And there are two of them. One of them is a crossover. A pair of parents' chromosomes produce a child. These are the parents, 1 and 2. So I take half of here, put it here, okay, and this half, put it there. This I put here, and this I put there. Okay, so this is a crossover. And also I have mutation. I take the chromosome and decide that with some chance, I'm going to replace this one with 0. This is a mutation. So these are my genetic operators: crossover, mutation. Question, you know? So I have parents, I can breed them, I can cross over them, and I can conduct some kind of rate of mutation. So the algorithm works like this. I have but as I said, a founding generation. Then I'm going to select the fittest candidate from the population. I'm going to compute each one, what is, in our case, durability and price, and choose the best one. Those one, I'll let them breed, meaning I'm going to apply the genetic operation on them. Then I'm going to assess the fitness of the new offspring, because if I cross them, I get off them. The less fitted candidate solution from my generation I'm going to throw them out, and I'm going to take the fittest offspring and replace them. And I'm going to repeat these steps again and again from generation to the generation until I find a sufficiently good answer for my question, or run out of time. I said, let's run it for 7 days, and at the end, let's take the best one again. Questions?
Might be the best one is not the last one.
No,
You need to go back.
here?
Yes.
No, I end at the time run out.
Yes.
I just look at my generation and take the best one from them. Okay. Now, this is used a lot in robotic. I'll show you a very nice movie, and this is from a student project, and they used genetic algorithms to teach this type of robot, cockroach robot, to move. So this is their poster. At the beginning, it moves badly because it actually learns through this type of genetic algorithm. It takes a while. You see, it finds the best way to move. Now, it also knows how to deal with some different surfaces. That's, and this is, okay, it moves quite well. Now, this is interesting because they didn't teach it how to learn by going, by doing. See, it's again, and then it finds the best one. And this is by using genetic algorithm, which is quite nice. So, again, it sometimes works, as I said, with different other different methods. It does not require a lot of prior knowledge. However, you can get stuck in local optimum. And what is a local optimum? And I will go back to the case that evolution does not produce the optimal creature. Let's say I have some kind of a function. This is my x-axis, and this is my y-axis. Think of it as, let's say, cost. I would like to minimize the cost, okay? So the minimal cost is here. This is called the global minimum. I wish to get this solution. However, there are also something which is called the local minimum. You see, here it's look like a minimum, but it's not. There is some place else on this curve which is lower, okay? In this type of algorithms, like the genetic algorithm, and also the reinforcement learning, and also some other algorithms, I may end up that all my, because I start by random, right? May end up that everything I got is here. So whenever I try to calculate and try to improve, I see that I don't, because if I try to go here, I'm doing badly. So the only way to go is here. So I'm going to be stuck here, okay? This is why I need mutations, because what I can do, mutation, if I will have some kind of mutation, it may happen that I'm going to cross this boundary, and by chance, one of my generations of instances will get a mutation that will transfer it to here. Now I can continue there, okay? So this is the problem of local minimum, and in many, many algorithms, it's a huge issue. Now, this exactly actually happening in evolution, because a creature is fitted to its environment and its behavior. And even sometimes, even mutation will not cross the border. So it's stuck here. The salmon is stuck in some kind of a local minimum that works for it, but it's not optimal for sure, okay? And it's not easy to define a usable representation of the problem. I said before that let's think that I have a way to represent the bridge in zeros and ones. Well, it's not so easy, okay? It's not so easy also to define the fitness function. In the case of the bridge, it is, but in many other useful cases, it is not. There are many, many parameters in this algorithm that you need to tune. What is the population size? How many parents do I need, or the first generation, to start with? How many mutations do I need to conduct? If I'm going to have too many mutations, then I'm going to spread all over the place and I'm not going to have anything working. If I have too little mutation, that I have the problem of being stuck in a local optimal. Also, it may be very, very time consuming, and this called in a mathematical world convergence, slow convergence, if at all. And I cannot go into mathematical details to explain this. I don't want to, so I'll try to illustrate this. Let's think of this as the Sahara Desert. Okay, the Sahara Desert is huge. Now consider the cockroach robot. I put it somewhere in the Sahara Desert to crawl and ask it to find the minimal low place in the desert. It will take ages, if at all, to find it. Okay? Now, in the case of the Sahara Desert, of course, it's defined, it's finite, so sometime it will get there. In mathematics, it doesn't always working like this. Okay? So convergence meaning that I will have way to be in the right place that there is the global minimum, and usually it's very difficult to have it. Questions? Okay, so let's take another break of 10 minutes, 10 minutes after 5.
Right.
Okay, let's continue. I'm going to start to speak about autonomous robots. And- Yes.
The different models require different computing power also, like the, it's also.
It depends on the task. Okay, for instance, the cleaning robot is very small. It does not have very sophisticated computing power because all it needs to know is just don't to get into things and to rotate, right? But if you need a robot, which I'm going to explain in a minute, of course, you need more. And if you need something like an autonomous car, much more. It depends on the complexity of the problem.
Like the number of tasks, not
The number of tasks, the number of sensors that you are going to get. Okay. So this is a very famous robot. It's called the military version is called Big Dog. The civilian one is called Spot. If you have to spend $75,000, then you can own one. Let's look a bit on its achievements. A few years ago, and it's getting better. This is the commercial of Motion Dynamics. It's also for commercial. They say it use it as a walking power. It knows to travel and to go up. It's very precious. It knows to go down the stairs. Okay. Knows to open doors. I'll stop here, continue going on. Now you see, using reinforcement learning, this is a simulation, okay? Because they have plenty of them. But the idea is to take minutes to learn how to walk using reinforcement learning. In the beginning, they don't really know how to move. And as we have more and more iteration, it takes more and more time to start learning. Okay? And continue and stop.
Each one of them individual.
Yes.
Well, the
Just-
ones that disappeared, there are only two left at the end, or they just.
No, just cut
Just the number.
Yes, yes. Let's speak first about civilian autonomous vehicles. When we speak about autonomous cars, we are defining the level of autonomous, and this is the most common definition that is known today. Level 0 means no automation, human driver in the car. Level 1 automation, most of our cars has it, like cruise control and some way to avoid collisions. Almost all cars nowadays have it. Level second, two, partial automation, meaning it is an automated system that knows to take full control of the car, but a driver must monitor and be prepared to intervene. Okay? All autonomous cars that we have today are somewhere between this and that. Even the current autonomous car require a driver that must monitor and intervene. Okay? The next level is called conditional automation. For instance, traffic jam. Traffic jam, well, again, there are constraints. The car cannot do whatever it wants. So the idea is that in traffic jam, we let the car drive by itself, but the driver must be prepared to intervene with some limited time, not immediately. Okay, you can read, for instance, and relax, but let's say in 1 minute, you must take control. Level 4 is called high automation. And it has full self-driving, but in a limited special areas. This is similar to what you asked me before. For instance, a robotic taxi or robotic delivery service that knows to navigate in a very specific selected location. So it knows everything about this location. It knows everything about this route. We are going to allow it to run by itself, no needs of any supervision.
Train? Autonomous train is in level 4? Or train?
Autonomous train is even easier
Yes.
because it's on a trail. Okay,
Assuming it's subway, but yes. Make it even easier. If it's subway.
even if it's a regular train, it's on trails, so
But then you
you
might.
cannot go left or right?
Yes.
The train does not control if it switch. There is a control system. The switch.
Control.
Yes. Okay. And full automation, non-human at all. This is, of course, the vision, but it will take a while. Okay. In order to have autonomous vehicles, and I spoke about it earlier in the course, but let's repeat, you need to have machine sensing and perception. And this is very similar to what I said before about reinforcement learning. You need to know your environment, to sense it, to understand your state inside the environment and what is going on around it. You must have a way to represent your state, your own state. Where are you located? And also represent what is around you, and tracking and prediction. Of course, I told you the tracking and prediction can be done using a deep learning with image processing. And I need a way to autonomously move and navigate. This is planning by map, for instance, Waze, and to control the car itself. I need also the robot to know how to control the whole different system of a car. I need for sure different type of machine learning, and I also need automated reasoning and problem solving, because whenever those cars are going to drive, they will get into new situation, and they will know. We need to know how to handle it. Nowadays, the new buzzwords are born when we speak about autonomous vehicles. We speak about also communication between the cars, so they will coordinate. For instance, in cross roads, who is going to pass first? So they are going to speak with each other, coordinate the speed, and of course, the position, and know exactly. Let's say, if I can see what happens 2 miles ahead of me, then another car will tell me. Okay? So this is called V2V. I can get information from network, like traffic updates. This is V2M. I can get information and influence the infrastructure, meaning the traffic light is red, but it's going to turn green whenever I approach, because I'm going to communicate that I'm approaching. and also smart parking, meaning where there are parking lots and to park by themselves, etc., etc. And this is V2I. There is also a concept of V2P, pedestrian. Of course, not to the pedestrian themselves, but the phones that they are going to carry.
Chip,
Hmm?
the chip.
Maybe, but for now we speak about phones. So there are buzzwords, as you can see, V2V, V2P, etc. So there's a new buzzword, V2X, meaning vehicle to everything. So this is the vision, and we are going to be there. But there are many, many obstacles on the way. I spoke about it in a previous lecture, but this is ahead of us. And of course, a car will need reinforcement learning, supervised learning for many tasks like identifying objects, a rule system for traffic rules, etc., etc. Basically, a car is a very sophisticated robot that will need many types of different AI techniques. Let's switch to the military world. What we see here is a vision slide of the US Army, and they speak about teammates, but they not only speak about, they also work on teammates. And the idea is that each platoon will be combined by human soldiers and robot soldiers. All of them speak with each other, all of them share the state. What you see here is the state. Okay? So we have here a robot that carries ammunition or whatever. We have here a robot that spots enemy and represent the enemy on the map of the soldier. We have here a robot, a drone robot, and another robot here. Okay. I'm going to skip the next movie because it's a long one, 10 minutes. And if we have time next week, we are going to show you too. If not, you can see it by yourself. 10 minutes of the vision of what does it mean to have a multi-domain platoon. What can we do with AI in the military world? Many things. I'll give you some examples. If I'm going to use the combination of deep learning and artificial vision, then I can detect automatically soldiers and vehicles of the enemy. I can be aware of what is the situation in the battlefield, meaning who is located where and what does it mean. And of course, I can guide missiles, and there are many other examples. If I'm going to add also reinforcement learning and genetic algorithms that I spoke about them today, then also I have autonomous system control for those robots, system navigation, and also the concept of swarms, which I'm going to speak about in a minute, I think. Swarms is a combination of many robots working together. There are current robots in use in military purposes. Of course, you all know the counter IED robot, which is a very famous one. For decades, we have this one. This is not an autonomous robot. It is guided by a person. There are now teleoperated sensors, meaning a robot that, again, they are not autonomous. And people can guide them and then put them somewhere and get some kind of sensing ahead of the forces. There are many unmanned combat aerial vehicles, we all know, and they are heavily in use. Current war in Israel, also in the Ukraine war. And there are also semi-autonomous unmanned special purposes system in many cases. But now we see more and more full autonomous robots working in tandem with people. What are the tasks that people envision that a robotic task could be in a military arena? So they can navigate, surveil, and track. Well, this is, let's say, more naive. In red, they also kill, target, and destroy an enemy. They can carry ammunition and the supply. They can navigate through a rugged or uneven terrain or cross bridges, which is one of the most dangerous task of a human platoon or brigade. They can carry intelligence, collect intelligence, forward recon missions, like for instance, BCNC points, command and control points, meaning forward position nodes that will allow a better command and control in combat. And of course, they can actually destroy enemy targets with mounted weapons. Now, there are plenty of current functional robotic vehicles. I just put two examples that I find that are royalty free that I can use in my presentation. But if you look at the Google, you will find many more. There are about 30 to 40 different armies in the world that are now involved in developing such vehicles. If you recall, Spot or Big Dog, which I said it's a cute one, it is real. It's not. It's from 2021. Okay?
He choose his own target.
Hmm?
He choose his own target.
Yeah. It doesn't look so cute now. Now, it's not only, of course, on land. We have it both on sea and in air. I'm not going to speak about sea, but everything I'm going to say about the air apply to the sea, because air and sea are much easier than ground, of course, okay? There are no obstacles there. So, this is example from US. It's called Skyborg. It's functioning. Skyborg is a smart autonomous drone. It's called a co-pilot. And the idea is that it works in tandem with a human pilot. So the pilot, the human pilot, issues commands and provides feedback to the Skyborg data. And the concept is R2-D2 from Star Wars, which was the co-pilot there, okay? And the idea, and at least what the Air Force say, that they are building it, so they are going to team Skyborg with a main fighter jet, F-35 or the F-15, and in order that they will work as pairs and separate the sensors and the shooter. Let's say the sensor will be ahead and the shooter will put from behind, or put sensor ahead, or whatever. So this raised some questions because army drones are increasingly capable of much greater levels of autonomy. And still, the concept of the army, the US Army now, is the robotic system functioning alongside or in tandem, as I said, with the main forces, and they coordinate with each other. However, and this is coming again from the US Army, we don't want soldiers to be operating these remote control vehicles with their heads down, constantly paying attention to the vehicles in order to control it, okay? So they need to be autonomous. Real soldiers has their task, they need to fight. We don't want them to navigate the robot. We want these systems to be fully autonomous so that these soldiers can do their jobs, and these autonomous systems can work in teammates and perform effectively in the battlefield. This is what I said before about swarms. There are many, many programs nowadays. This is only one of them, called the Offset Offensive Swarm Enabled Tactics. It's a DARPA project. They speak about 250. It's a lot. drones that are working together, some of them in the air, some of them in the ground, and they can, of course, work together in many different environments. They have what is called swarm autonomy, meaning they get their task and that's it. They fly or drive. There is no human that continues.
Going from remote,
Hmm?
you need to be connected to the network to get.
No, they are connected together to get their task, and
So it doesn't need a PC or a PC, a machine that sits.
no. Now, they also speak about human swarm teaming because there still is the question, who is going to shoot? The robot or a human? Okay. So I gave you several examples from the US. This is coming from China about 4 years ago. They have already autonomous or semi-autonomous fighting ground robots armed with machine guns, like so, and also night vision, missile loaders. It is not clear at least at the time when I thought it was not clear it's autonomous, but it will be. It's if not tomorrow, then 2 years. And this is from Russia. It's called the Ochotnik Hunter drone. And the idea, as you can see, it has some kind of stealth figures. Again, capable carrying out missions, also thinking about concept like the Americans of wingmen. They said already in 2019 that they use autonomous arm in a war game, not in combat. Well, I don't know. Some people were skeptical at the time, but it's 5 years ago, so if not then, probably today. And we need to think about what is the future of battlefield, of warfare. So currently the Pentagon doctrine is, and they actually emphasize this about half a year ago again, that a human must always be in the loop when it comes to decision about the use of deadly forces, meaning full autonomy until you pull the trigger. However, there is a concern that not all armies or terror groups will have the similar doctrine, and also let's be realistic and fair, not necessarily that the US people will also follow it, although they, as I said, about half a year ago, in some kind of a Congress act, they rearranged it. By the way, there is a story for about 3 years ago that a drone of AI hunted down and killed a soldier in Libya without no human inputs. I don't know if this is true, but at least there are reports on this. And here we are speaking about a drone that is called Cargo 2, which is manufactured in Turkey. Okay? So this is not the future. This is the present. It's already happening. And of course, we'll see more and more of this in the coming years. And I'm not speaking about 20 years, I'm speaking about 5 years. There are many issues, moral issues, ethics issues, when we speak about this type of robots, but there are even greater concerns. First of it, people say, what is going to be the cost of war? Because if we'll see armies of robots fighting each other, then maybe the cost of war is cheaper because we are not going to sacrifice human lives. So maybe it will be easier for organizations or countries to declare war. Why I say organization? Because in the past, probably you know from the history, there were organizations with armies, not only countries. Adversaries will have problem fighting these armies because Usually in wars, we try to kill the soldiers of the opponent army, but those are robots. So it means that countries that does not allow or cannot afford this type of armies will be forced to strike civilian targets because what they can do. Also, and we are in the cyber program, of course, if you have those type of armies, then cyber attacks could result in a big effect. Because if I can, by using cyber attacks, get control of the opponent army, well, it's going to be very interesting. Questions till now? I'm not going to get deeper into the issues of this. I'm just going to leave you with one article that was published about 4 years ago. For those of you who are interested in getting to know more of this. And this guy, he said that the future of warfare will continue to be human, although we'll see more and more robots in the battlefield. And just summarize to you the article or his thinking. The character of war continues to evolve, and this is always happening from the dawns. Technology helps to win wars, and again, this is from, you see it from the history, it always was true. And AI has important military potential, and I hope I convince you by now that this is the case. So conflict in the future will take place in a battle space that is shaped by AI and other new technologies. Again, this is for sure. However, there are risks to an overestimation of the rate of technological change and the role of advanced tech in future victory. Meaning, yes, this is going to happen. Yes, this is going to be huge. However, this is not the whole picture. And he continued to argue, in spite of many exciting technological development, history and data suggest that we are probably in an evolutionary rather than revolutionary period. Meaning it's an evolution, it's not a revolution. War may not even have human involved. He asked, well, hope that robots will replace human in war is misplaced. He said, no, this is not going to be the case because still, although we have great robots, they cannot think and take decisions like humans. This is not the case. And human intelligence is still more creative, and creativity is going to win the next war, not technology. This is his argument. Of course, people can argue with this, and probably we'll see more of this coming in the new years. Questions? Okay, so that's it for today. And we'll meet again next week.
Thank you.